Well, hello there, everybody. It's me, Super Dave. And this is Milltown's Best. You guys, today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. And for those of you who have been watching Milltown's Best for quite some time, you know I love my hometown, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Brew City is where I reside. And I have lived here basically my entire life. I love my city so much, but there is one thing I have been extremely critical of, and that is the youth in my city. Milwaukee is known for the creation of the Kia Boys. We have had a serious youth crime wave going on in our city for multiple years, and I have been very critical of this. I've made several videos about it, talking about when is something going to be done and who is going to crack down on the youth of Milwaukee, Wisconsin committing these crimes. We're talking about drug dealing, car theft. We're talking about murder, homicide. We're talking about serious crimes here. And it seemed like the youth had continuously been getting smacks on the wrists, slaps on the wrists. And if they were to do any jail time, it would be minimal, to the point that it was a joke on the street to these kids. What I want to talk about now is a sentencing that just happened here in my city. And Judge David Borowski, who is an awesome judge. I love this judge. And Judge David Borowski had just laid down the law in a recent sentencing of a 19-year-old. First of all, let's take a look at the actual instance here of what we're going to be talking about. What this 19-year-old did, and then we're going to talk and we're going to watch the actual sentencing of this young man. Now, I'm not gloating, I'm not gleeful, but I am proud to say that something is finally being done, and they are showing these kids that crime is not going to pay here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is a CBS 58 news report about Christian Martinez. Let's take a look, guys.
So far, and emotions were running high in court today as a 19-year-old man was sentenced for shooting and killing 15-year-old Nelson Lopez Correa.
15 years old was the victim. You guys got to remember that. We're talking about a 19-year-old young man whose life had barely started. I guess he was a promising basketball star, too, from what I hear on the streets. But the victim, 15 years old, this kid was on his way to school, remember that. Remember that. He was on his way to school.
Now, that 19-year-old escaped to Iowa before being arrested there. A Wisconsin jury then convicted him in December. Our Jenna Wells was there when today's sentence came down. And Jenna, it sounds like powerful messages were delivered in court today.
Yes, a coward, a monster, and a disgrace. Those were strong words from the judge as he sentenced 19-year-old Christian.
Now, personally, that kind of would show bias in my opinion, but I'm not this young man's defense attorney. And once you guys actually hear what the judge said, he did not actually call him a monster. Kind of misreporting in my opinion, but we'll see what the judge actually said in a second.
Martin to life in prison for the killing of 15-year-old Nelson Lopez Correa. The courtroom gallery was filled with Lopez Correa's friends and family, all heartbroken but healing today.
And I will never forgive Christian for taking my son. Hopefully God does, but we will never forgive him.
Nelson Lopez Correa's mother told the court life without her son has been agony. The teen's family celebrated his killer's life sentence, but their devastation remains.
No amount of time will ever bring back our nephew.
Prosecutors played surveillance video from October 28, 2024. That's when Christian Martin shot Lopez Correa in the head. Court records say it was over a girl, and prosecutors say they didn't even know each other.
He was a child standing at the bus stop to go to school, and he got killed for it.
Martin was given the chance to speak to the judge or the family twice.
You have something to say? Now's your chance.
And said nothing.
Can't even offer up a feigned apology to the court. Not a.
These kids are heartless. These kids who think that their homeboys are going to be there for them when they do time. I assure you, young man, those homeboys are going to be nowhere. Those homeboys aren't going to be putting money on your books, but they sure will be pouring one out for you.
Letter to the court, not a damn thing.
So we don't want to hear from you. Nothing that comes out your mouth is going to be good enough for us.
Judge David Borowski infuriated by the lack of accountability.
You're a disgrace to your parents. You're a disgrace to this community.
and exhausted by cases like this.
He committed an execution of a 14-year-old in broad daylight.
This is an example of how much we have devalued life in this community.
Lopez Correa's family hopes this case proves consequences are real.
Yeah, violence is not the answer. What's it going to get you? Jail cell. That's it. You lost your life.
Now, Martin does have the possibility of extended supervision in 45 years. And Judge Borowski was very clear the only reason he allowed that was due to Martin's age, citing state and U.S. Supreme Court guidelines with that. That means Martin will be 64 by the time he even has a possibility of being considered for.
So far, and
That is absolutely insane. Is it? I mean, is it not crazy? A young man, 19 years old, over a crush, over a woman. They said he'd be in his mid-60s before he's even eligible to be on parole. Life thrown away and no remorse. I watched this judge's sentencing, and I've been screaming from the rooftops for somebody to feel the way I do about all this youth crime and children murdered and all this crazy, useless drama. Judge Borowski is finally seeing what I've been seeing for years. He talks about his docket, guys. He talks about how all the judges in Milwaukee, Wisconsin have cases like this one. I want you guys to listen to how powerful what this judge said was. And hopefully this is going to signify some changes to take place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We need to see the books being thrown at these kids who make poor decisions, because that will deter other children and other young people from committing crimes like this, which will in turn make the streets of Milwaukee, Wisconsin safer. Because we have a serious youth crime problem here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. If you don't believe me, just listen to what the judge says in this.
First of all, in preparing for today, I've reviewed all the documentation in the file. That includes the defense sentencing memorandum. It includes multiple victim impact statements, letters from multiple victims. The restitution information. Obviously, I presided over the trial in this case. I'm very, very well aware of the circumstances.
So somber.
And let's start with this. Two things. Mr. Martin committed what was an execution by shooting a teenager in the head. And Mr. Martin has shown not one iota of remorse, not 1 second of 1 day of 1 minute. One of the victim's family members said, and they're correct, Mr. Martin, your parents failed you. You're a disgrace to your parents. You're a disgrace to this community. You're a remorseless murderer.
Serious words.
I am going to express some of the outrage that I think is not existing in this community anymore. And everybody else, sit down. Next person that moves will be escorted out or out in cuffs. Don't move. I'm going to express some of the outrage that I think is missing from this community. Just yesterday, I sentenced another defendant for a child homicide. I have multiple, probably a dozen child homicides pending on my calendar.
A dozen. This judge just said on his calendar he has a dozen child homicides. I don't know how this judge gets sleep at night. And it's to the point now, the media is not even covering many of these cases. And they should be, in my opinion.
Where children in this community have been murdered. And no one bats an eyelash. That's how bad things are in this community.
I agree. Wholeheartedly.
I hope somebody's taking note. That's how bad things are in this community. This defendant, Mr. Martin, walked up to a 14-year-old and shot him in the back of the head. Behaving, as one of the victims said, like an absolute monster. Behaving like the devil.
Notice he didn't call him a monster. He said behaving like one. I think this judge is very careful when he picks his words, even though he delivers such a scathing delivery of what his sentence is going to be, because he's not trying to leave any appeal issues. They can't say that he was biased or anything like that. Called the defense a monster or anything like that. I think that's why he's very careful with how he's choosing his delivery and not directly calling him a monster. You'll see.
That's their words. Behaving like an absolute monster. So the defendant has a work history. So what?
Exactly.
He committed an execution of a 14-year-old in broad daylight. That's what it's come to in this community. Mr. Martin has no remorse whatsoever. None. Can't even offer up a feigned apology to the court. Not a letter to the court, not a damn thing. In my opinion, we have reached a point in this community where homicides are so run-of-the-mill
I agree.
that each of the 4 judges in Milwaukee that hear homicides have 50 or 60 pending homicides each on our calendar.
Wow. 50 to 60 homicides on their calendars. And I'm not sure how many judges Milwaukee County has, but I can't be more than a dozen, I don't think. Baffling numbers. It's time this gets reined in.
Children can be killed, and it barely warrants a news story. It doesn't warrant a comment from an elected official. I am not saying that this defendant is a monster or behaved, as one of the family members said.
There it is. So the news did misquote him. He is not saying that. He is quoting from victim statements.
Like the devil, but he behaved in a completely evil, monstrous fashion. And for all the family members, that's what your loved one did. A broad daylight execution. All right, take the woman in the pink out. If she wants to argue with me, take her out. Front row, out.
Wow. This judge, he ain't having it. He's not hearing it. Today's the victim's day. Justice for the victim's family.
This defendant is serving a mandatory life sentence.
Mandatory life sentence at the age of 19 for shooting a man over a woman. Probably put up to it by his homeboys. Impulse. Sad. I feel for this young man who's going to live his life behind bars. Hopefully he'll have his family's support. By the sound of it, he did no wrong. Somebody just got ejected from the court because they didn't want to hear the wrongdoings of this young man. So hopefully that lady in the pink will be there for him and show him some support while he's in custody.
He obviously deserves decades and decades and decades in prison.
For a judge to say that, that's powerful.
Remorseless murderer. There were many letters written by the victim's family and friends. I read them. They all have very similar themes, but I'm going to read a couple things.
If you guys want to finish this video, you can search for Fox 6 News and search for Christian Martin's sentencing. I don't want to play the whole video. He then reads from victim statements. It's very emotional, very heartbreaking. But there is no minced words with this sentence. The youth has honestly been running wild, and it seems like now the judges are paying attention, and they are blowing down, or they are delivering mighty blows, and the punishment is going to fit the crime, it seems like, here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, especially as far as younger perpetrators go. I'm a big fan of Judge David Borowski. Amazing judge. He just, before this whole ordeal, he straight up snapped about his courtroom smelling like marijuana before this exact sentencing. And I'll play that in another video because David Borowski said, he can't do nothing about the smell of the weed. But anybody who basically smokes weed before going to court needs to have their reality adjusted, is basically what he said. And he minces no words, this judge. And he seems very fair and very strict. And at a time like this, when we are having a youth crime problem on our streets, we need more judges like David. Seriously, we do. Guys, this is just a short video. This is what I have been thinking about lately. I have so much more to talk about, and I do plan on doing a live stream relatively soon. Nothing major. Just want to shoot the crap with you guys and see what's going on. Officially down almost 50 pounds, by the way. So I'm still rocking the day by day, doing good. And we got a lot to come here. Just waiting on a couple things to hopefully button up here as far as old business with the channel, if you catch my drift, before we can open the book and start the next chapter of Milltown's Best. If you guys catch where I'm going with that, awesome. Guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.